Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Into the Mind podcast. Today we are diving into the mind of a true Scottish rugby legend, and I've literally not been this excited for a podcast in such a long time. This is Greig Laidlaw.
Another penalty advantage. Laidlaw on the captain's. Greig Laidlaw, the little general, has kicked his goals.
Greig is the former Scotland captain, one of the most reliable kickers in world rugby and the heartbeat of the national team for almost a decade. A true leader on and off the pitch. When you were being looked at by millions of people online and also a massive stadium full of people, and you're taking a kick that could possibly win or lose you the game, like how did you keep calm?
It was a funny one because, a lot of time when you get a penalty, or some players on the team end up, come up to you like, don't miss, or please get it, or something like that. And
It's not what you want to hear at all.
No, it's not.
There was a video that was leaked after the Scotland England game. Do you remember this? What was your reaction when you saw that the next day?
No, I was shit myself, really. It's rather funny part of that story was
Alrighty, guys, before we start this episode of the Into the Mind podcast, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button, 5-star button, follow button, whatever it is, wherever you are, I'd really appreciate it. The more likes, subscribes, 5 stars, whatever it is that we get, the more incredible guests we can get on the podcast. So thank you guys so much for that. Without further ado, my name's Harrison Brown. This is the Into the Mind podcast, and let's crack in to this episode.
Yeah, it's good to be back.
And firstly, how does that work in terms of tickets when you are an ex-professional rugby player? Do you get free tickets to everything?
No, you don't get free ones. That's for sure. Then, well, I guess depends how many good people you know, I guess. But no, in terms of like the lines and stuff, because if you've represented the Lions, which I was fortunate enough to do, you can apply. Through it's 1888 club it's called, so you can apply through that and get some tickets and stuff if you like. So I had some tickets for a few games, and went along to a couple. So yeah, it was good. It was good to be there.
Amazing. And what did you think of I watched the the testing of the Australia Lions. What were your thoughts on that game? Were you there? Did you watch it? Is that the one we saw?
I never went to the test match. I was at the Waratahs game, which was pretty dire actually. um, what did I think of it? As expected, to be honest, at this moment in time, I think a bit disappointed with Australia, really, to be honest. And it never really fired many shots, and I think it was a funny one because they almost, having said that, they kind of crept up at the end out of nowhere, but the game was gone. The Lions were sort of in cruise control a little bit, so looking ahead to that second test, I can't probably see the Lions coming under too much pressure, but I might be wrong.
Yeah, I felt like when I was watching that game, I was just watching it from here in Scotland, but I felt like the Lions started to lose the head a little bit towards the end because as you said there, Australia started like creeping back up, and I feel like the Lions do this really weird thing where they start so strong, they get ahead, and then everyone goes, ah, fuck it, like we'll just mess around a bit.
Listen, it's a funny one. It's like subconsciously, and when the game's rolling and you get off to that good start and you end up getting a few points up, and subconsciously you do relax a little bit and you think the game's gone. And the game was gone. They're never going to be caught, but I think maybe the Lions can use it as a good thing, going into that second test. To be honest, they could say, look, if I'm not on here, lads, for 80 minutes, then these guys are good enough to come back. And I've made a couple of changes that probably needed to make to try and get a bit more power into the team because they struggled. The Lions didn't look under too much pressure defensively or anything. So the Lions might be able to spin that, in their own favour, I guess.
Yeah, and learn from it. I suppose it's like the biggest lessons are always in kind of failure. Did you find that when you were kind of active for Scotland in the Lions?
Yeah, I did. I think there's learning in everything, to be honest, and that's the key. It's understanding the why, isn't it? Like a lot of the time, it's you know why did we actually win, or why did you actually lose, and that's ultimately, if you're trying to get better or move something forward, the big thing is, why did the set thing happen? So taking learnings, from both sides and taking learnings from defeats, it's probably slightly better, in terms of the long run if you can actually understand again coming back to that why. But you know, being beat is once you're certainly in professional sport and stuff like that. So it's not where you want to be, but it's part of it. So it's how you learn, how you move on, and improve.
And how did you apply that to the boys when you were captain? Did you like, because obviously, I mean, whenever Scotland beat, especially England, right? They always go out, they get absolutely smashed. But how do you like keep their heads level? Because like a lot of the time, I feel like, especially in the Six Nations, Scotland will beat England, and that's the hurdle. And then they're like, right, we've done it. We've completed it. We don't need any more. Like, how do you keep them motivated after that big pinnacle game?
Yeah, well, that's a really interesting space, really, because emotional peaks and stuff like that. It's very hard to. It's probably almost impossible, really, to back up if you have a huge emotional peak one week, for example, whether that's against England. It's very hard to replicate that again to the same standards. Whether you're going into playing France or Ireland, whoever it is, and so it's like what I try to do is like you mix it up. So if you've had that emotional peak, one week, let's say it's against England. If you're going against France, maybe you really sort of hone in on like either the technical or the tactical side, and then you try and move away from that emotional side, and everybody's got fresh things in their mind and excited to play the game. And I think that was one of the great sort of learnings, I guess, for me along the way as captain is that the difference week to week and the ebbs and flows of how I'm feeling, how the team's feeling, and really trying to find out week to week, what do we need as a collective here to get the job done.
And did you kind of, when you were captaining, did you sniff out what motivated certain individuals? Like, did you individually go, right, listen, this guy is motivated by X, this one's motivated by Y, let's try and put that in front of them so we can get them to play an amazing game? Or was it more of a team kind of feel that it's more of a blanket feel, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I think I learned so much along the way around like people. Essentially, I think when I was a young captain, that was probably one of my flaws is I probably didn't understand that as much. And I felt everybody should be the same. So even if after a game, for example, if you got beat, I was not fun to be around and stuff. Where other people were pretty much just the same, and rightly or wrongly, I'll get annoyed about that. But again, when you remove emotion and you start understanding people, it's like they're not they don't feel like that because they don't care any less than me. That's just how they feel. And I think that works, both ways as well. It's around that motivation piece is the individual is who needs what to help them get motivated as well. But it's a fine line as well as, when you're captain, because I think again, when I was a younger captain, I maybe got lost in that a little bit at times. Rather than, worrying about myself first and foremost, because if I can bring the best version of myself and, lead by example, then that's ultimately probably the best way to lead.
And how did you gain the respect from the boys? Because like you have, 15 testosterone fueled big burly men. I'm sure there's some pretty difficult like personalities to kind of deal with. There's some pretty people. I mean, obviously looking at the Scotland team, like Finn's pretty out there. Like there's lots of different personalities that you're juggling there. How did you kind of monitor that and gain the respect that they kind of didn't talk back and they didn't talk shit and they didn't, kind of press you?
Well, yeah, that's a great question. I think it's not about them not talking back because, I'm not immune. Like I'm not above anybody else. And I think, being open to being challenged, I guess, was hopefully one of my good strengths. And, I always tried to, anything that, I was saying, I tried to do it. So, you know, leading by example again, or, I was like a stickler for like time management, like doing the right thing, recovery, whatever it was. That was really me, and leaving no stone unturned. To get the job done on the weekend. So I think I sort of gained respect, over the years, from players. But I think that's that's one of the keys, isn't it, to being a good leader? It's like being open to being challenged,
Mhm.
admitting you don't have all the answers and stuff like that. Because that ultimately, I think, Finn and I, for example, over the years in training, we had a couple of bust ups. Because he's probably so relaxed, and he's like,
Mm.
"Oh, don't worry about it," but I did worry about it
Yeah.
and stuff like that. And so, but again, it's not because Finn didn't care any less. That was just the way he was. So I think, if sometimes they bust ups in front of the group, but then if you're, on talking terms straight after training, and you just shrug your shoulders, I thought it's a really good message at times for the group as well. That, listen, Finn and Greg, for example, they're going to fall out because he sees it slightly different to him, and that's all right.
Yeah. And would you think he was the most difficult kind of personality to manage? Because I feel like the reason that Finn is so good is because he doesn't have that emotional tie as much as perhaps others. And I feel like that unnerves people, the fact he's so relaxed, because like obviously everyone in the rugby team really, really cares. But because he has this just like chilled out nature, it really can kind of get people uncomfortable that do really care.
It's a great point, isn't it? And I think sometimes that's obviously more for the coach, that stuff in terms of the actual management of him. But he was absolutely no dramas at all. Over the years I've worked with him, because when you get to understand Finn, he's a genuine great bloke as well. And he's a proper team man. And that's the thing that, some people potentially get wrong with him. They think he's all about himself, and he's genuinely not. You look at his history and the teams he's went to, whether it's Glasgow, Russell, Metro, Bath, the proper team man. So I think, like, his skill to be so relaxed on that big stage is one of his biggest strengths, as he kind of touched on there as well. And it's because that emotion, like, it's such a fine line, in international rugby at any level, really. Like, if you got on the wrong side of emotion, and I probably made this mistake as well, again, when I was a bit younger, and Finn really helped me with this. If you get on the wrong side of emotion, you're sort of blinding yourself. You've got the sort of glassy eyes. You start missing things. Because at the end of the day, it's a game of rugby. And I think I've always looked at like the All Blacks, and I think they've really got that right, the ability to really perform under pressure over the years. And I know that, they've done a lot of work behind the scenes and how to be relaxed and play with no pressure and stuff like that. And Finn, he's one of the lucky ones because he can just seem to do it without caring.
He's got something wrong with him, that boy. And what does like? Because I remember watching what game. I'm gonna get the date wrong here. It was when Scotland beat England about 7 years ago. I'm gonna say it was like the massive blow up between Scotland and England. About was it 7 years ago? Maybe 8 years ago. And there was a couple of kicks that you did anyway. When you were kind of being looked at by millions of people online and also a massive stadium full of people, and you're taking a kick that could possibly win or lose you the game. Like how did you keep calm? Because like Finn is a different creature altogether because he just has something in his brain that seems to just not be turned on. But like, how did you calm yourself to the point of right? No, I do this every day. I train, 6 times a week. It's fine. Like put everything to the side. I'll be sound.
Yeah, it's been a wonderful, I guess, learning experience for me, that has over the years, and essentially, dealing with pressure and how to perform your skill under pressure. That's ultimately, what goal kicking is, as you mentioned. Whether you're Murrayfield, just under 70,000 people, or Wales, whatever it is, England, big stadiums, a lot of noise, and a lot happening. It was a funny one because a lot of the time when you get a penalty or whatever, some players in the team end up, come up to you like, don't miss, or please get it, or something like that. And
It's not what you want to
and
hear
you're
at all.
no, it's not. But and ultimately, that's happening the human side of it. It's the first thing that happens is your brain tells you don't miss, You know what I mean? That's what happens. But you've got to block all that out. And essentially, what it is coming back to performing your skill under pressure. So always just focused on my process, and I always fell back on my training. So that ultimately is why your training is so important. So am I going through the motions? When I'm training, when there's nobody watching me, or when the weather's poor, am I just out there kicking balls and not thinking? So if I am doing that, then essentially I'm wasting my time because that's not going to help me at all when I need to perform on the big stage. On the big stage, sorry. So everything, and I mean everything, is done for a reason. When it comes to that side of the game, is like visualization. You know, is it the team run? Before the big international, you're in the stadium, but there's no crowd. Are you going away and just visualizing potentially that first kick tomorrow, and just being really clear in your mind that coming back to your process when there's noise, when there's people telling you not to miss, that's the
Yeah.
key.
Yeah. And is that something that you did actively when you were training? Is there kind of steps that you took when you were training? You mentioned visualization there. I'm guessing just like repetition to the max would be a big one. Is there any other kind of key steps you took while training so that it became like you were on autopilot?
Yeah, I think like competition and training at times as well. And again, like you can be creative with that as well. It's like, so are you kicking on your own? Is it an individual session? So if it is, are you going to kick 30 kicks and put, no pressure on yourself? Or are you going to say, right, I've had 10, 12 kicks now. I've got whatever, eight or nine left now in the session. This is what I need to do, and I can't come back. I've got nine left. Bang. These are the nine. I can't kick anymore, or whatever it is. Or I've got two from here, two from there, and one from over there to finish my session. And whatever happens, it happens. So almost, putting yourself under good tension, good pressure, to really practice coming back to that skill set, coming back to that process that when you need it most is going to hold up.
Hmm. And was there any in particular team that you would come against and the nerves would be more than normal for you?
Yeah, geez, that's a good question. I say, no, I don't think so. I think you kind of get used to it in a sort of weird way. It's such a funny thing, Like when I think back now, it's weird that once you retire and you step away, that you done that and you went through it. No, there wasn't like one team. I think when you come into the Six Nations, stuff like that, you understand, the magnitude of it all. But I always used to see it, as opportunity. Everything was an opportunity to me. Like we've got an opportunity to play for Scotland to potentially win and create history and and put more history into that jersey because that was the biggest thing for me is and a lot of people talk about it now, but that was the thing for me. I genuinely tried to leave, my jersey in a better place, when I finished and when I picked it up, and hopefully, I was able to do that.
When you look back at your time captaining, who was your inspiration to become the captain and go to where you did?
Yeah, geez, I never probably had like a sort of person in terms of that captaincy figure. Obviously, you like certain players growing up and stuff like that. I think somebody that was almost before his time when I was coming through was Chris Patterson. Like, he mostly obviously, is probably one of the earlier professionals, really came through and, he didn't drink and stuff like that, but just the way he probably applied himself in his training, and his preparation, obviously he was a goal kicker, as well. And I think, I was fortunate enough when I first came into Edinburgh, I was just a young fella coming through, but he was always like willing to give people his time, as well as like me being able to see him and his work ethic and stuff like that. I think probably that rubbed off on me a little bit as well. And I think I was lucky, and sometimes you're lucky in the sporting world, you get opportunities to meet, people from different fields and stuff like that as well. And I was always fascinated by the military. And I was very fortunate over the years to meet people that, had been in the SAS and stuff like that. And that really intrigued me, all that stuff, that performance under pressure, the teamship, and stuff like that. And I think, I really learned a lot from meeting people like that.
That's interesting. So did you kind of take what you learned from the kind of SES boys and the army boys and apply it to your own training?
Well, I think I certainly tried, at times. Um, Probably because, I was interested in it. It really sort of fascinated me, and, rugby is obviously, when you're in it, it's very important. But, the guys in the military, we all know what they're sort of dealing with when, they go into the, theatre of war and stuff like that. And that ability to really rely on your teammates, that was probably the part of it that really interested me because, they are dealing with, life and death at times. But I think if you can understand it well enough and really try to bring it to life in a rugby context, it can be really, really useful. And I
Hmm.
think nobody does it better than the guys in the military.
Yeah, we've had a couple of military boys on, but we had a guy called Brian Wood on, and his story is it's unreal. So he was in the Battle of Danny Boy. So essentially, they got out an armored vehicle. I think there was 4 or 6 of them, and they had to kind of leapfrog across a battlefield while getting shot at by machine guns and kind of take over this. But it was when he was describing it to me, I was like, that is literally insanity. And he also described the fact that he was in an armored vehicle and there was a kind of, what do you call the vodka bottles that have the fire on them?
Yeah, no, yeah, I
K
wouldn't be sure though. Than him, but
Kalashnikov or something like that. Yeah, so that
yeah,
got, launched through the top of the car. So one of his pals got hit, was on fire. There was then fuel leaking into the car. So he was watching the fire and watching the fuel, and he was like, I'm about to blow up. And just some of the stories that these guys have and what they put themselves through and the discipline that it must take and the mindset they must have not to freak out, like, that is super, super special. Like, there's only a select bunch of people that can, like, truly go through that and be level.
yeah, and it's so interesting, isn't it? Because you mentioned it there, that discipline. So and there in that aspect of life, of work, if you can call it that, it's like how disciplined, are they in around their training to, it comes back to that goal kicking thing, how disciplined could I be to actually put myself under pressure so my process, is going to hold up. So how disciplined are they in their training? So when they do end up in a shit situation, which clearly that is, how hard have they actually trained and how have they been kidding themselves or have they actually prepared themselves for, for a shitstorm? And, ultimately, I think the military guys, I think everybody could probably agree they probably do it the best.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Do you kinda miss that? Like, whenever I talk to I've had a good few of the rugby boys on, and whenever I talk to them, they always talk about the kinda, without sounding cliche, the kind of the brotherhood aspect of kind of like you're on tour with the boys, you have a laugh, you like bam each other up, you're taking the piss out of each other, but you're all having fun. And a lot of the times when that ends, people struggle with the fact that their social circle isn't as intact anymore. Like they don't have that, you know, however long away with the Lions tour, for example, 8 weeks in Australia, you're all staying in the one hotel, you're always taking the piss out of each other. Do you kind of miss that aspect?
Oh, geez, you miss it for sure. I mean, yeah, you definitely miss it. Like it's probably the best days of your life, really, if I'm being honest. In terms of you just can't replicate it. You know what I mean? Yeah, we've all worked hard to be there for sure, and I will say that about players and rugby's a bloody hard sport. But once you get in there, listen, you get well looked after. You know what I mean? You stay in nice hotels. You're with the boys. You're having a bit of fun as well as the serious side of it. But you got to marry the two up, and I think the best environments I've ever been involved in is the ones that get that right. Is when can you have fun? When can you be both? And then flick the switch right, we're on, and really getting that balance right because having fun and coming back to the military as well. They talk about humor and trying to have fun where they can as well. It's so important because
Yeah.
Like everything, isn't it? It's like if you go into work and you're enjoying yourself and having fun, you're probably gonna want to go back again tomorrow, aren't you? Or certainly more so than not. So yeah, it's I guess I'm a bit introverted, so I wasn't like I'm not extroverted or anything like that, and I think it is difficult sometimes, coming out of the game and retiring, and because you almost it's really easy when you're a rugby player because you get up in the morning and you're like, boom, you're in there. It's like, everything counts, but what you're eating, your preparation, how you're turning up to training, all blah, blah, blah. Your identity is really easy because you're a competitor and you've got to have to probably perform on the weekend. But as soon as you stop, um, you're not that. You're the same person, don't get me wrong, but it's like, and that's where it can become dangerous. A lot of people have got caught up in the fact that I'm so and so, I'm just a rugby player, and you're so much more than that. But I understand why people can struggle, come out of the game as well.
Yeah, so it's almost like identity, like you kind of you lose some of your identity when you come out of the game.
Yeah, yeah, well, exactly, because and time moves quickly, as well. It's because it's an easy trap to fall in it. Some it's listen, if you're a rugby player, you're doing well, and you're getting pats on the back, whether you're in Scotland or England, if you're an Englishman or whatever. It's people warm to that. People like sport, don't they? And it's like, but I think we've all seen it now, and with the rise of social media, it's when things don't go well, that can very quickly flip, can it? So it's very important to understand that you're not just the sportsman or sportswoman. You're an individual as well outside of the sport, and I think having that real identity and real clarity that you're not defined by your sport is really critical. And I think I still believe it can be done so much better. Like, there's a lot of people talking about it now, which is great, but I think it'd be great, in my opinion, especially in rugby, because you don't get paid the money, footballers do that. Certainly your academy players or even professional players should be made to do, studies alongside, playing the game and making
Yeah.
sure that they're ready to, when they do actually step out, they're genuinely ready and they don't just think they are.
Yeah, I had this conversation with, I think it was Blair Kinghorn, and he was saying he said it's weird because rugby players have their career almost in reverse. He was like, if you start a job, normally you start at a base salary and then you work your way up until you're 16, you have a bigger salary, then you retire. And he was like, well, with rugby players, it's the opposite. You get into the team, you're really well paid, but you're really well paid for a very short stint of time, and then you're out. And like what once when your body, when you hit that 35 mark to 40, I mean, your body's going through a lot of changes and you just can't keep up with the 20, I hate to say it now, but like the 20 to 30-year-olds, and he said, yeah, so it's weird. It's almost like you've spun your career the wrong way around. And a lot of people can't handle that. Like they kind of come out of rugby and they think, like, fuck, I don't know what to do. Like rugby was my thing and I have no idea what to do. But nowadays, as you were saying, like it's quite nice to see like Jamie Batty is now a qualified pilot. Which is like insane. Like, so a lot of the boys are a little bit more forward thinking.
Yeah, they definitely are, which is great. And I think obviously with the development of professionalism and people sort of seeing some of the struggles, people have went through coming out of the game as well. And I know people, personally as well that have struggled, and it's horrible to see, and some of the, people that have been, life and soul, and one of the proper boys, but they come out, they lose that identity, and it comes back to what I was saying before. Things move quickly as well. So you're a player here, but then the next player comes in and then everybody's talking about him, and all of a sudden, everything goes silent. So it's vitally important. And, any young players playing the game now, I'd very much encourage them to, yeah, put everything to rugby, but definitely be proactive, find time, whether it's night school, 1, 2 nights a week, whatever it is, your day off, find time, study, get another passion. And I think it makes you a better rugby player as well.
Yeah, I think something that I got taught quite early on was kind of to diversify, especially with the spaces that I'm in. It's kind of like YouTube, podcasting, social media, marketing in general. And if you put all your eggs into one basket, like it only lasts so long. Like Instagram channels can be really, really powerful, and you're kind of like a semi famous person. Then all of a sudden, it's like that, it's gone, and you do lose that kind of identity. So it's the diversity aspect is super, super important. How do you think you kept your identity in that transition period?
Yeah, geez, it wasn't always easy, and like it's probably still not. To be honest, I think I'm maybe not. I've maybe not stuffed, to be honest, which I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I came out to Japan, what I thought was, play 2 years for fun at the end of my career, and then I was going to go home to Scotland, right? And then, the club sort of convinced me to play another year, and then I've got to go straight into coaching, so I've
Yeah.
not really had much time to blink, as it were. But you still miss the playing. Like again, coming back to that, it's yeah. Um, being a dad as well as obviously I've got three young boys, so they take up a lot of my time. But rather than seeing that as a burden, I try and like really celebrate that and give them as much time and energy as I can. And I think I guess not forgetting that you're their dad as well. And I think again, it sounds obviously so simple and easy, but a lot of people will get caught up in being that rugby player and that front and center and the most important thing in the world. And really, it's not. It's about being present. Being a dad, and I think I was somebody that got caught up in the game a lot. So it's been nice now to try as much as I can to, be really present and be a good dad essentially.
Has your family changed the way your kind of outlook?
Um, yeah, yeah, it definitely has now. I think, yeah, you'd probably ask my wife this. She'll tell you, I was 100% committed, yeah, to that rugby world, and she's been great. She's somebody that's been able to sort of help me maybe understand sometimes it's not the be all and end all. It's a game of rugby, but when something's important to you, that can become difficult to see, can't it?
Mm.
So no, definitely now, like I'm loving seeing my boys get a little bit older now. My oldest was 11 just last week. I've got a 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 2-year-old. All three boys, so they certainly you've got loads of energy, mate. So I need to
Yeah.
try and be present and tire them out as best I can.
How did you find this is a totally off-piece question, but, how did you find the transition into becoming a dad? I talked to Ali about this for, like, a while, and he was like, It's weird because you're in the hospital, your wife's in, labor, and then once everything's done, they just kinda hand you the baby, and you're like, 'Right, off you go.'" You're just like, What?" How did you find that?"
Yeah, geez, yeah, I'm busy. But like the way essentially my career was, we had our first son and up in Scotland, and then
Mm.
we moved down to Gloucester pretty much straight away. He was only like 2 or 3 weeks old. I mean, I'd already been down in Gloucester, I'd already started, and I went back home for the birth. So yeah, it was real like busy time, and we moved away, I guess, from that family support network. And I think, yeah, that in itself has probably been probably one of the most difficult things we've done, as a family. We were in Gloucester with one, um, and we were in Gloucester with two, moved to France with two, and then we decided, we're going to have three, so we'll have the third one.
Yeah.
He was born out here in Tokyo in Japan, so uh, v- difficult. My wife's been excellent, and I think the rugby community is great as well. Helping you, with help for your wife and stuff. But it's probably on reflection. It's probably one of the toughest things we've done, away from the game or I
Mhm,
guess the stuff that people don't see, it's they only see the 80 minutes on the weekend, whether you're playing
mhm.
Clermont or, whoever it is or the team I played for out here. But it's all the other stuff in behind it that it's probably more important to allowing you to be the best rugby player you can be.
Yeah. How do you think the game has changed from when you were playing?
Probably not a huge amount. No, I don't think. I think probably individuals are being celebrated a little more, which is great. Yeah, that it's Finn or somebody like that. Yeah, or Henry Pollock, something like that coming through. He's grabbing a lot of media attention, but it's great for the game, isn't it? And I think you know, for so long on rugby's when it will always be about the team, but there's no reason why you can't celebrate the great individuals within it as well. So that's probably the biggest change. I've not been retired too long, but I think I think the game's in a fairly good spot, and we just need the people to enjoy playing it, enjoy watching it.
I think that's been led a lot by social media. I think that social media, it's such like a it's so good and bad at the same time because like I'm guessing that a lot of people kind of get caught into when they're playing well, social media obviously rants and raves, but when they play shit, that's ruthless, right? So it's like you miss a kick, all of a sudden everyone hates you on Twitter. How? Because when you were doing those kicks for Scotland, for example, and it was the last point, and you need to fucking you better get it over, or social media is gonna like crucify you. Did you feel any extra pressure on that?
Not extra pressure, but I think it's definitely a pressure nowadays that players need to deal with. And I think if you understand you're going to be on it, which pretty much everybody is nowadays, it's just an acceptance for me. You got to accept there's essentially pricks out there in the world that want to bring people down and and be nasty, and that's sadly that's the world we live in. And at times, you said it yourself. It's either good or it's bad, or it's a lot of the times it's a lot worse than bad. It's horrible and nasty, but you gotta have thick skin essentially, and just shrug it off. Don't get involved in it, you know. Yeah, and just and that's where it comes back to like in terms of sports people, self confidence is absolutely critical in it all. If you believe in yourself, that you know you're doing the right things behind the scenes, you're working hard enough, you having that self confidence, and that's not arrogance, but self confidence to know that you're good enough, you can get the job done is absolutely key. And so, for any youngsters coming through now, put the work in, be confident within yourself, and then let the let the bullshit fly over their head.
Yeah. It's difficult though, isn't it? Because like that self-confidence sometimes can almost become cockiness if it's done the wrong way. Because a lot of I see a lot of and annoyingly, a lot of them are quite successful, but a lot of people that are really self-confident, sometimes you come away and you're like, "You're a fucking prick."
Well, there you go. So, like, why do you think they've been successful? Then?
Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
that's it.
So,
Do have you ever read The Law of Attraction?
no, I've not read that. No.
It's super, super interesting. It's not very long, it's pretty short, but it's all about essentially what you put out into the world you get back. It's essentially if you create your thoughts to be a certain way that you'll get that back. So if you're, in a negative state of thoughts, you're gonna attract negativity, you're gonna attract negative people, et cetera. So that's essentially what it does. But I do think that kinda subconsciously or not not consciously, a lot of sports people kind of do it. They're kinda born with a personality where they are cocky is not the right word, but maybe they are extremely self-confident,
Mm.
and that's why they get into the positions that they normally are. I think Finn is a prime example here. I've heard stories about him being like, super chilled out. He's eating Haribos like John Barkley was saying, he's just sitting there eating Haribos before the Scotland England match. He's like not caring, and John's freaking out in the corner, and Finn's like, it's fine, like don't worry about it. Is there any stories that you could tell me about any of the rugby players that won't get them into trouble about their kinda, or any funny stories about the rugby players?
Oh, jeez. A lot of it, there's obviously a few from over the years. I think Finn's probably the one in Scotland, isn't he? From recent time, he's in terms of that stuff, whether it's chocolate bars or the way he sort of handles himself. Another interesting guy was Duncan Taylor. He played down for Saracens, like an absolute great human being. Like kind of similar to Finn in a way, like super like chilled out. Really funny guy, but again, he could like really flick the switch. Um, I once heard, I don't know if it's actually true. I don't even know if I've asked him, but Wayne Barnes, the referee, I think he was a lawyer as well, so he's like a barrister, I believe. And there was a bit of
Mm.
chat going around one day around Wayne Barnes is barrister as well, and Dunk Taylor piped up from he was sort of eavesdropping on the conversation. He's like, "Oh shit, he must be great at making coffees uh, if he's a barista." So, eh, so he's an incredible customer, old
Yeah.
Duncan Taylor. So the boys down in Saracens, they called him Super Dunk. We called him Spacey. So he was a bit of a
Mm.
space cadet, and he was like an old classic. I think we were going to Australia or something once with Scotland, and he's rolled up, like, forgot his passport, absolute classic, and stuff like that. But, like,
Yeah.
great human being and just, like, super chilled.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember seeing there was there was a video that was that was leaked after the England game. Do you remember this?
Yeah, well, I remember it now. Yeah.
What was your reaction when you saw that the next day?
Oh yeah. No, I was shit myself, really. Yeah, but I think it's all taken in the right sense, thankfully.
Yeah.
Oh, mate, honestly, that was after that 2018 when we would beaten England at Murrayfield, and uh, we went out and obviously had one too many to drink, and my phone was pretty much jumping off the bedside table. In the morning I was like, oh shit, something's happened here. Just sort of coming to and waking up. Um, yeah, so that was
Was it
interesting.
was it just a random person that filmed you in the club? Was it just like nobody knows
Nah,
who really?
nah, nah. So the best part of that was there's two kind of funny parts. Well, it's funny now, funny parts of that story. It was actually Finn's girlfriend or long-term partner, Emma.
Oh, so it is Emma.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So like, so we went out before, whatever. So she's taking the video, and I think Finn had woken up in the morning, and he's whatever, they're checking their phones, and so Finn's like, oh shit, like he's seen the story she put up, and so Finn was like, oh, you better take that down. And so she took it down, but obviously
It's gone.
then the net has it now, mate, and somebody got a hold of it, and it was going halfway around the world before I could lift my head off the pillow on the Sunday morning.
I just love the fact that, like, it's almost in slow motion. You're just like ripping your t-shirt off.
Yeah,
It's
mate.
good fun. It's
It's
good
no good.
fun.
And the other quickly on that one, the other funny part of that story was I was playing in Claremont at the time.
Mm.
Um, so I was meant to be flying back on the Sunday. So I was like, obviously a bit rough, and Rachel, my wife, and the kids were with me in Scotland, and they were up in Edinburgh. So oh right, shit, come on, we got to get like sorted for the flight on the Sunday. So feeling rough, and then I get a message from Air France, and your flight's been cancelled. So I said, all right, shit. So I was like, right, actually,
Mm.
this is a good thing. I'll spoke to the Scotland team manager at the time, a guy called Gavin Scott. He's a legend. And I was like, Gav, can you get me an extra night in the team hotel? My flight's been cancelled. And he's
Mm.
like, yeah. So he sorted that. I was like, thank goodness. So I got a good night's sleep up in the morning, out to the airport. And then because I was like in the printed press, like the day after,
Oh no.
mate, I've rolled into the airport. And obviously, I've got I think, yeah, we only had two boys at the time, and front page of the, whatever newspaper it was, and it was like, shirt faced, what was the headline? And then you got me on the front cover of the paper, and I was like, sort of ushering the kids past it.
Yeah.
Um, so one guy's quite funny. He sort of come up and snuck the newspaper in front of me. He's like, "You wouldn't sign that, would you?" Just before I got on the flight to Claremont. So
But listen, I think you need like, I kind of I kind of miss the days where phones weren't so much a thing, so you could have fun and it didn't shoot back in your face. Like you did, like although you were fucking wrecked, it was harmless. Like you were just having fun, you were chilling out. But I do miss the days where you'd go out, nobody really be in their phone. If you did something stupid, people would forget about it in 2 weeks. Whereas now, especially in Scotland, like all the clubs are shutting because everyone's shitting themselves. Nobody wants to get filmed doing something stupid, and it goes online, it goes on Instagram, it goes viral. So everyone, there's a degree of seriousness that people aren't having the same amount of fun as they used to have because they're all just like wrapped up in these bloody phones.
it's incredible, isn't it, how the world's changed, I guess, in terms of that
Yeah.
space. Like, and yeah, listen, like. you talk about going out and nights out, and you want to, because that's the other side as well. It's we talked briefly before around the pressure side of the game, and so I'm not encouraging drinking to excess everybody, but just be careful. But where do you get your pressure release? You know what I mean? And like I know Finn in the past before he had kids, for example. He liked having a drink, and he was like, "Look, I work hard all week. I put my heart and soul into the game, and I just like having a drink after the game and try and relax. It's the only time I can really stop thinking
Chill
about
out.
the game, yeah, and chill out." And so I think, yeah, but it is a bit of a shame that how much or how overpowering, I guess, that social media is now, and it's all around the world, and it's probably irreversible, certainly at this stage, isn't it?
Yeah, well, you're seeing a lot of people that are actively just deleting their socials. Like my brother doesn't have, apart from LinkedIn. Like I think he literally was like, "No, this is it's brain rot." He's sitting there scrolling through TikTok, and it's just bullshit, 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 and you can't remember the last 3 TikToks you bloody listened to. You know what I mean? It's like it's just it is brain rot, is what it is. Do you still like, see when you watch, Scotland rugby now, do you fly to Scotland to see it, or do you stay in Japan? Is it
Oh, I mainly stay in Japan, but, because
Yeah.
time limitations, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a long flight, isn't it? And do you just get up at 2 in the morning to watch it then, because it's later there?
Oh, sometimes I would, sometimes I'll just sleep. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and, catch the highlights or something the next day.
Is there a certain game that you would always wake up for, though?
Uh, nah, probably not. Like, I do, like, still watch the games and stuff, but
Yeah.
it's a funny one, because again, you talk about the identity piece coming out, being attached. It's like, eh, am I still hanging on to something, or have I moved on? And essentially, I've moved on, to be honest.
Mm.
I'm into my coaching now. I'm putting time and effort into the kids and the family. So yeah, it's a fine line, and I've enjoyed like moving on as well. And I'm a big believer around, like, once you've done your time, like, I think it's great to step away and let the team develop and move on, and so you're sort of not looking back in all the time. So maybe it's time for me to potentially come back now, and maybe do a bit more TV work potentially, and come back. And I think I've literally only watched, geez, 2 or 3 games live, like, but at the game, since I retired for Scotland. So not many.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, well, you see, like, I know that John Barkley and well, Jim Hamilton's one as well that has his own podcast and he's doing extremely well. Big personality, like everyone really likes him. He's doing great. But yeah, do you think that's an area that you'd go into, kind of the more presenting side of things?
I think I don't know, to be honest. I would say I'm still coaching at the moment, so yeah, it's something I may want to look into. Coaching can be fickle, in terms of you got to move your families around and stuff like that. And as I mentioned before, my eldest now 11, and we're sort of looking at, in a year's time, he's going to be going to secondary school. So we got to decide as a family, what's best for us. So yeah, as long as if I can give something back to the game, and certainly in Scotland at some point, definitely I'll be keen to explore some options.
When you look back at the career, what do you think is the worst refereeing decision that somebody has made?
Anyone who goes against us, really.
But is there one that springs to mind? Like, I know that, oh, was it 2 years ago, France we scored against France, and they disallowed the try even though it was clearly down. That I thought that was you should have seen the pub that day. It with the glasses getting chucked at the screen, it was mental. But when you were playing, does one moment stand out to you as just, like, the worst refereeing decision that's been made?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was captain of it when there was quite a controversial decision made in the World Cup quarter final. We were playing against Australia, so
Uh-huh.
my old mate from South Africa there, so that was a pretty tough one to swallow.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, listen, I've moved on now. It's a long time ago, but sometimes it springs to mind, and or somebody asks you about it, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's a difficult one because it's happened, and you move on. But yeah, listen, it's a part of the game, and we've got to to respect the refs and be inclusive of them, as best
Mm.
we can. But as long as they've got empathy for the game, and a real empathy for the players, then I don't mind. Don't mind the refs too much.
Would you ever like I'm getting because you strike me as quite kind of level-headed. You're quite, you wouldn't get overly emotional when it comes to the referees. Is there anyone in particular that would just like, because there's certain boys that just shout at the refs that just they shouldn't, but they just do. Did you ever do that, or were you quite level?
Oh man, I tried to be level. I feel like I think, yeah, and again, it was a big learning sort of curve for me. It's like once the ref's made a decision, it's a bit cliched, but he's probably not going to change his mind, is he? Really, and it's like, so is it worth my while now, putting my energy into arguing with the ref about something, or is it best just to get back and just get on with it and worry about the next job and do that to the best of your ability? And you get caught up in the moment sometimes as well. Yeah, I've probably never got that right all the times over the years, but I think you learn that through experience and challenging, um, respectfully. Essentially is a key around that stuff as well.
Who do you think's the most exciting player to watch right now from Scotland?
From Scotland, uh, yeah,
Or not
Finn played.
from Scotland's maybe not the right word because you've got Van der Merwe and stuff like that. Well, you know, you know how it is.
I know how it is. Um, yeah, Finn, definitely. He's also been in that slot. But also probably Blair Kinghorn as well. I think them two, like, I think Blair is like, it's been amazing, I think, for people to see that a player from Scotland, like Blair, going to a team like Toulouse, and how excellent he's been performing. I think we can take a lot of, um, a lot of confidence, I guess, in terms of the Scottish system, that we can produce great players. Somebody like Blair, somebody like Finn, great players that have gone before them as well. And I think if we can just tidy up our system a little bit and allow some of our best talent to really come through and reach their potential, and I believe we can have some properly better, or probably more homegrown talent, more
Mm.
consistently. And I believe, that's a way to go forward.
Did you see the video of Blair's nose?
Yeah, yeah, I saw that. It was funny.
That is, oh, poor guy, man. Poor guy.
Yeah, when you see
Yeah.
things like that, you're like, "Jeez, it's a stupid sport, isn't it?" At times, and
Yeah.
he's quite a funny guy playing as well. So it was quite funny.
Yeah, yeah. He's such a nice guy. I've told this story in the podcast before, but so when I was first starting the podcast, maybe 2 years ago now, a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had like virtually nothing going for us. Like there was no studio. It was in my lounge, my living room. So like it was like nothing there. And I text Blair or like, Instagrammed him and was like, "Listen, mate, this is really rogue, but like I've never met you, but do you want to just like come down and film a podcast? It would really help, and like I'd really appreciate it." And he went, "Yeah, no worries." And then just like drove down. Was like the most lovely guy. Filmed all that kind of stuff. Gave so much time and then left. And that is so like indicative of, like, he's just such a good person. Do you know what I mean? Like he's just like a really respectful. Like even when he came in, he took his shoes off, and I was like, "You're such a nice guy."
Yeah, he's a great human, man, and I think that's probably why he's done so well, in Toulouse and France as well. He's probably went in, he's got around the culture, tried to really grasp that, and and understand, the French way. And I think, you know, I've had the hindsight, of having traveled now and understanding that importance, that side of things as well. So yeah, he's another great human. Certainly a bit different,
Yeah.
bit of a loose unit at times, but in a great way.
Yeah, he was telling a story when he was on the podcast. He done in the kind of ligament in his ankle, so he was really struggling to get mobility back into his ankle. And he said he went to Ibiza, and because he was so drunk and he was dancing all the time, he came back and his ankle was fine because he's like he'd just been dancing on it the whole time. Did you hear the story about Finn when he jumped into the pool?
Mm, what one was that? Because there's a few about Finn.
There was I'm sure he won't mind me saying this as well because it was Ali that told me. So essentially Finn had really serious accident. He cracked his skull. Like it was bad. Like he collided with someone who was really bad, super concussed, and he went on this boys' trip to I think it was Ibiza or Magaluf, something like that. And the coach said, "Listen, guys, just make sure that Finn doesn't do anything stupid because he has got like a serious accident." And the first thing that Finn does when he walks into the hotel or the Airbnb is jump straight into the shallow end of the pool and smacks his head off the concrete and just comes up and it's like, "Oh, fuck."
Yeah, geez, mate, that's not a great advert for drinking and holidays. So be careful, Rory. But yeah, Finn's had a couple in over the years because I've been involved with a couple of other incidents but as well. I think we were out in Edinburgh actually. The doc wasn't happy about this one. He jumped off the table or something, and like I don't know if it was a bottle of vodka or whatever, but I don't know what they put a little things on the top of the bottle. I don't know what you call
Yeah.
it, and then it's like the thinner, basically the thinner pouring spout thing. And
Yeah.
mate, he's jumped down and bang, mate, he's managed just to stop himself, but he's caught himself in the eye with that as well. So yeah, there's been a
Oh my
couple of
god.
close calls over the year, mate. He was lucky. So
Did he split
um,
his head open? Was it just like
nah, well, mate, it went straight in his eye, I think. So yeah, it was lucky. Like he never went down. Otherwise, it could have been a bit messier, mate. But
oh
here we go.
shit. Oh my god. Well, that's terrifying. And on the subject of terrifying, actually, who's the scariest rugby player that you've ever played against?
Sebastian Chabot, big French unit.
Seba let me
Yeah,
let me look
you
him up.
you know him?
Se Sebal. Or is it
Chabot,
Cheba?
Sebastian
Oh
Chabot.
my god.
Yeah. There you go, mate. He was a big old unit.
Oh my god. Is he the kind of guy that would run at you and you'd be like, "Oh, for fuck's sake." Like,
Yeah,
oh
mate.
my god.
He played well. He played for France. Played at Racing Metro. Big sort of icon legend in France. Mate, I swear
Yeah.
we played Racing Metro with Edinburgh
Yeah.
back in the day, and I swear to God, mate, he was like every time he got the ball, he was like trying to eyeball me and run like clean over the top of me. I was playing 10. And I was just like, mate, can you please just like leave me alone? Like I was, 80 kilos, like on my best day, and God knows what he
Yeah.
was, 110. He was absolutely shredded, and just like big, long arms, long legs, like one of the worst guys to tackle. It was literally,
Yeah.
well, we used to talk in rugby terms of just putting your head in the spokes, literally chucking your head like in between his legs and holding on until somebody else came in and finished the tackle. So anyway, anytime he came near me, it was put your head down and just hold on until help arrived.
Hold on for dear life and just hope that
Yeah,
somebody else came. Did
exactly.
you ever get injured when doing that? Like, what was your worst injury that you had?
Yeah, mate. Sadly, I picked up a couple over the years. Dislocated my left kneecap. Uh, but yeah, I was only
Oh.
18. That was pretty messy. It was bloody sore as well. And then I done my syndesmosis, which is essentially your ankle.
Mm.
I think you get a tib and your fib and your main sort of ligament in between the middle there. That was ruptured. Um, that was sore as well. It was niggly.
Mm.
And then there's an operation. I don't want to bore you too much, but it's called a tightrope. So you get I think it's an aluminium band essentially to go put a hole in your tib and your fib, and then they band it up. So it essentially becomes, yeah. So I've still got that in there, and then sadly I actually done the same movement again to do the syndesmosis, but this time the band held, and then I broke my ankle instead. So then's that's the lucky you get, mate. So I just moved over to Claremont, and we're playing. It was pretty early in my Claremont career. It was one of the first European games. Came over to Wales, and bloody, it was like one of the last plays of the game as well, and snapped my ankle. So that was a sore one as
Oh
well.
my god. Oh
Yeah,
my god.
I actually done
Do
a
you say again?
Yeah, I was gonna. It's like they were the worst actually, because if you done something like that, pretty much most of the time you hopped on a plane after it as well, and then the swelling, and it was like sore as fuck.
Oh fuck. Did you? I've never broken anything major like that, but I'm guessing the ankle is literally the worst thing, or anything leg related. Because at least like an arm, you can sling it and you can still do certain stuff, not obviously on the pitch, but training wise. Whereas your leg, you're bedbound, right?
Oh, mate, yeah, it's a shocker like any, like, whether it's big knee or for me, ankle injury, it's just like, as an athlete, obviously, you keep your body in good nick, and as soon as you can't run, essentially for, rugby players, some endurance athletes like that, or, endurance plus power, bloody hell, it takes you, you're blowing out your arse, mate, when you come back and try and get fit again and get back up to speed. So it's, how quickly can you get back on your feet and rehab it and get going again. And that's, I guess one of the unfortunate parts as well as the unfortunate when you get injured is we get pretty well looked after as well, and some great facilities nowadays to try and help you out. So
And do you still like if you were to get injured nowadays, would you know how to handle it because of the kind of the rugby career? Does that kind of make sense?
yeah, yeah, mate, as long as you're like pretty switched on and you take an active role and like understanding, your body understanding, potentially what's wrong or what you can help her with. And as I said, we've always got pretty good access to excellent physios, doctors that really try and help you out. So as long as you've got, sort of half a brain, mate, you can keep yourself going. 'Cause I'm playing sort of old boys football over here now, mate. I turned 40 this year and I've pulled my hamstring twice in the last 6 months. So
Oh no.
maybe I never paid enough attention.
Yeah. Did you believe in acupuncture? Have you ever heard of that?
Oh, yeah, 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 I've had it a few times, yeah.
Yeah, I think that I had, so early in my career, I did, or well, I still am. So I'm a videographer, photographer. But what I would do in order to get ahead, especially when I was young, so I'd like wake up at 2 in the morning and hike up the Munro for sunrise, so that I could. That was my kind of niche, right? So, but the issue was that it was a 25 kilo rucksack. So like, because it's heavy as shit. I've got drone, I've got like cameras, lenses, everything. It's like I'm 27 now, but I've been doing this for 8, 9 years, and I went into the physio, couldn't fix it. I went to tons of different shit, just couldn't fix it. Then I went to acupuncture, and instantly she was like, "I know you carry a like heavy bag, don't you?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "Right, yeah, because your back's fucked." And I was like, "Right, good." um, and within I'm gonna say like 2 months, she'd fixed it. And I thought it was utter bullshit. Like, see, when I heard like, "Oh, put a needle in the muscle," I was like, yeah, right, okay, that'll help." But it actually works.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's amazing. I don't know how much it's used these days in the rugby world, but yeah, and that's the thing is again, human beings. Some people react to different things, and if it works for you, then stick to it. I guess.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. I think it's super important, especially as you get, like, older to know what's gonna fuck your body up. Like, I'm not gonna do that deadlift because 'cause I'm definitely gonna put my back out. It's like it's accepting that you're not, built as you once were.
Yeah, there's definitely an acceptance. Like I try and sort of keep myself in good nick nowadays as best I can, but it's like you know, back in the day, you're not forced, but you end up sort of lifting heavy weights, and but I don't believe in putting all that force and that through my body now. So you sort of change, and adapt your training and understand, again what works for you and can you do, resisted band work rather than actually shifting heavy weight. And you're doing the things properly and you understand enough about it, you stay in good condition, without shifting massive weight.
Yeah, I was, my pal's kind of, I think right now he's got like 6% the body fat. The guy's like a freak, like he's like ripped to shit. But I was talking to him and I was, "Oh, do you do bench press or deadlifts or squats?" He was like, "No, none of it. It's just like literally just weights in isolation. Like I just isolate muscles and focus on that." How does your training differ from when you were kind of like in the Scotland squad to now?
Oh yeah, I mean it'll differ a fair bit now. I think when you're playing rugby, power, speed, it's obviously what you're looking at. Halfback as well, that endurance side. So it's you got to be running fit and as well as strong enough because when you're not one of the biggest guys, but you got to have enough power, pound for pound to hold your own against some big bodies. But yeah, as I said, so I've very much moved away from that sort of stuff now. But that probably still holds some of the basic of what I do now. But yeah, very much like the big thing for me now is my back really. Sort of get a bit older, mate. And so can I keep my hips healthy? So just training around that, and it's just consistency, I guess, at this stage. I've got enough good exercises that I do to keep my body healthy, and try and play football without pulling my hamstring as well.
Is it your lower back or is it your upper?
Yeah, my lower back. Yeah.
Lower back. It's so every time I think I'm fixed, I'll do something and it'll put it back out. I'm like, I don't know, I don't know how I'm doing it. Like I feel like I play paddle. This is really embarrassing, but like I was playing paddle over New Year, and I like used to coach tennis, so I was quite fast. So I went down to hit a shot, pulled my back out, and it was so bad that like my girlfriend had to get me changed for New Year's. Like I couldn't take my trousers off. Like I kid you not, that's how bad it got.
Not good. The old backs is a shocker because it affects everything. So yeah,
Mm.
try and keep that as healthy as I can. Mobility, probably more mobility rather than anything else, and around my hips and stuff like that. So if my back's feeling all right, I'm in a pretty good spot. And thankfully, that's probably why I retired in the end. I was 37. I was lucky. Is again the sort of club were making noises about me playing again. I was like, nah, listen, I want to retire now. I want to be able to play golf, play tennis with the kids and stuff like that. So yeah, but I'm one of the lucky ones. So I'm still pretty fortunate.
Take me that back to that decision then, because that's like a pretty it's a life-altering decision, right? Was it a hard decision to make?
Yeah, yeah, it's a hard decision to make. I guess I done it sort of gradually. I retired from Scotland after the 2019 Rugby World Cup, and I still played club. Yeah, but whether yeah, I sometimes think about that. Could I kept playing and stuff like that? But you can't play forever. At the end of the day, so it's a big decision, but it's one it's coming as well. And again, it probably comes back to what we touched on before a little bit. It's like, are you prepared for it? What are you going to do after it? Don't just be wrapped up in being a rugby player or, a sports person. Make sure you got your identity out, and make sure you're really clear on that, and happy within yourself as well, because it's a big decision, but every sports person comes to that stage, don't they? They've got to walk away from their given sport at some point. You can't play forever, so it's going to happen. So prepare yourself for it and just accept it, I guess.
Was there a final straw? Like, did you get injured, or was there something final that happened that made you think, right, this is the time?
Nah, nah. Funny. For me. It was just like I was just getting pissed off with like all meetings, and like the games are still enjoyable. It was just all the training and the meetings. And funny how when you get older and you've been in thousands of meetings, and you get coaches telling you this and that, and the next thing it's like, I mean, mate, I've I kind of know what the fuck I'm doing now. So just let me get to the.
Yeah.
Not so much as I, what I mean. It's
Yeah.
and maybe because sometimes in Japan I got a bit frustrated, but it was just like because I always tried to learn new things, until I got to the end. It wasn't as if I was like, oh, I've got all the answers, because I've not, and I still don't. But it was just like I just like the training and the meetings starting to become real monotonous. And I was like, oh, I've had enough of this.
Yeah, yeah, you're just kinda you're at the end of your temper almost. You're like, you're done with it.
Yeah, exactly. The games are still enjoyable, but the rest of the shit was getting a bit boring.
Yeah, yeah, it makes sense. It makes sense. It's, I feel like in life, patience gets less as you get older. Like I always used to look at my dad and was like, fuck, that was really rude what you just did. But then like after a while you start thinking actually like he's just like older and he can't be arsed with the small talk. It's like
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? It's funny that yeah, no, I think probably as you get older, the sort of tolerance for stuff that's it's whether it's not in your circle or you just don't agree with it or can't be asked with. It's funnier, and I think you definitely learn that with experience and time.
I think it's self-confidence, like, it's knowing who you are and that you don't need to put up with certain things. Like, as we get older, we kind of narrow down our friendship groups. Like, they become smaller and smaller and smaller until you get to, like, maybe a group of and it's like 4 or 5 people that you're really close to, and it's like whereas when you were in school, when you're 18 to, like, 22, you were like, "Oh, I can't imagine my life being any different than having tons of friends and tons of personalities." Do you still keep good contact with anyone from the squad? Like, what is your kinda group?
Yeah, I mean, that's in my group, but it would be pretty small.
Hmm.
Anyway, I still could just keep in touch with a few guys, but briefly touched on it before. I'm a bit of an introvert, and I think, but I was always like real comfortable, within my own skin. Um, and the extroverts, for example, I never tried to like compete to, you know, hold the room or anything like that. I just sort of let them get on with it and just be myself. So I think it's, coming back to leadership or sports people, understanding yourself, who you are, being comfortable within yourselves is absolutely critical to being successful, I reckon.
Yeah, and do you think that because when I look at people, especially I'm kind of in business now, but when I look at people that command attention in a boardroom, typically it's the most quiet people that are most confident. Like you could that's the people that you're kind of like, fuck, what are they gonna say? And like when are they gonna say it? And they're definitely gonna tear me apart, but I just don't know when it's gonna happen. Like, did you find that that was actually kind of played into that? Like that was a strength?
Yeah, yeah, I think it was a strength of mine, and I think that was probably one of the parts I got right because it's like everything, if you're the person that's talking all the time and you keep talking, eventually, whatever group you're trying to lead, they're going to be like, oh shit, here's so and so talking again, and even if your message becomes a great message, if you've talked too much, you're almost diluting yourself. So you're really like picking if you do need to talk, picking your moments, understanding what you're going to talk about, and just be precise to the point, and get on with it. So I think I really sort of, and again, just maybe coming back to some of the military guys that I probably learned some of that stuff off allowing other people to lead at times as well is one of the key components of a strong leader.
Well, military guys get it right because they don't like when they walk into a room, everyone's looking at them and waiting for them to speak. It's like there's a weird dynamic that goes on that because they don't announce themselves walking into the room. They just kinda are there and they're confident. Everyone's kinda like, "Oh." Like, it kinda it unnerves people a little bit. Like, they just demand almost respect. I was gonna ask you, the game that you were at, the Lions game, was that where Darcy got injured?
No, 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 that was one of the ones before that. So one of the
Right.
earlier ones in the tour, yeah.
Got you. And what do you think of Darcy Graham as a player?
Oh, it's super exciting, isn't he, Darcy?
Mm.
He's one of the players. As soon as he gets the ball in his hands, the crowd are on the edge of their seats type of players. Yeah, obviously not big in stature, but great, like a real explosive athlete. With that speed and power. Yeah, so super exciting, and it really sort of fits the way Scotland are trying to play the game at the moment. So yeah, I think he's brilliant in terms of how many defenders he can beat and stuff like that. Yeah, so super exciting rugby player, and yeah, he's been excellent for Scotland.
He has, and he's like, I remember, Tuipulotu was saying, or Sione was saying that the bigger guys are a bitch to tackle, but you can kinda get them down. Whereas someone like Darcy is so difficult because you almost feel like you're gonna high tackle him. Like, you can't, he's so nippy and he's so low to the ground, you can't really get close to him.
Yeah, that's the great thing about Darcy. He's got that sort of low center of gravity, hasn't he? And his footwork is one of his key components of him. Being really dangerous, and that's obviously the way the game's been refereed now and around like the high tackle stuff as well. Anytime he gets in and around the bigger bodies, they big boys they're shitting themselves. You know what I mean in terms of trying to tackle somebody like that. So yeah, the big collisions are the big collisions, but the big boys can deal with that. But what they don't like is the small, fast guys, like your Darcy's. They really, put pressure on defenses.
Do you see who is the most exciting young, kind of prospect for or kinda in Scotland at the moment?
In Scotland at the moment, obviously I think Rory Darge has been excellent. Um, in terms of his position doesn't demand the most exciting stuff, but he's a true sort of warrior already. Um, I'm a big fan of Stafford McDowell as well.
Yes, yeah.
I think Stafford's really been excellent. For Glasgow, he's um, few on occasions for Scotland as well. So I think he's I don't know how old he is now, but he's definitely one that hopefully can break through into the team in the next couple of seasons and yeah, start being a leader for Scotland as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And final question, because I know you've got the kids and I can hear them in the background and everything. um, who was the best captain that you played under?
That's a good question. Best captain I played under. Probably Rory Best. Yeah, Best. He wasn't the tour captain or anything. I don't think, but he captained that midweek team with the Lions in 2017. Yeah, and I think he got that. He just had a good understanding, of the group. When to lead, when to let others lead, stuff like that. And I sort of enjoyed the way he liked to lead a group. Good man as well, and got that what we talked about before, in terms of that fun side and relaxing and the serious side, got that very much right. So yeah, I'd probably say Rory Best.
Any stories about him we're allowed to hear, or is it confidential?
But sadly, I never got to spend too much time there's the one we really are 2017 Lions tour. Man, we had this like random experience on that tour. I think it was going into the last week or something. We were in, as I say, we were in the midweek team, and we were in Wellington, and it was like, the midweekers, like us boys, were going out in the piss for the night because it was, I can't remember, the Tuesday or the Wednesday night or something. And, like, somebody's booked this Italian joint, I think it was, right? Okay, so I looked up the address. There was like 7 or 8 of us, can't remember. And, we rocked up to this place, and it was like, James Haskell was there as well. And we went in as like sort of restaurant, and the guy like took us out the back, and it was essentially his fucking garden shed, I think. That we ended up like having this random Italian meal in, and that we had about, flipping 20 bottles of beer each or something, and then, we just left it and sort of went out for the rest of the night. But it was the most random sort of things slash restaurant I've ever been in all my life. But yeah, some good memories.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff you remember. Like looking back on it is, so with me as well. It's like you remember the shit that went wrong. Like when stuff goes right, it's not as much of a memory. It's when stuff goes wrong and it's funny that like you bring it back up because it's like that funny thing that happened that wasn't meant to. So yeah, when things go wrong, it tends to be the stories, doesn't it?
And it does, and that's the great thing about people, isn't it? It's like, you talk about rugby environments or whatever environment you're involved in, but a lot of the times, you forget the specifics, you forget the game or the season, but you remember the people. And I think that's why, environments, whatever it is now, the ones that get it wrong, in my opinion, almost forget about the people. So, the people are the ones that bring it to life and are so important, and that's the things you remember.
And it's great that we've got people like Blair, Finn, Dewey, Sione, like big personalities coming in, like, because it will get more eyes in the game. And yeah, it's the people that you remember at the end of the day. So, well, listen, mate, I just want to, you've obviously tuned in from Japan. So I just want to thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure it was weird getting a random message from some dude on Instagram. so, mate, I really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much.
Pleasure. Take care.